The massive arena stretched out like a metal bowl under the purple sky of Nexus Prime. Thousands of alien beings filled the seats, their voices creating a sound like rolling thunder. Some had 4 arms, others had no arms at all. Creatures with scales sat next to beings made of what looked like living crystal. The air smelled of ozone and fear. Tae-woo pulled at his work shirt collar and wished he was anywhere else. The plastic seat was too small for even his average human frame, and the alien next to him kept making clicking sounds with its beak. He looked down at his toolbox and sighed. All he wanted to do was check the power systems and go home to Earth. "Why did I take this job?" he muttered, opening his lunchbox. Inside was a simple rice ball and some kimchi his wife had packed for him. At least the food was normal. The crowd suddenly got louder. Tae-woo looked up to see massive screens showing different alien faces. A voice boomed across the arena in a language his translator earpiece turned into Korean. "Welcome beings of all worlds to the Apex Trials. Today we see who among the galaxy's greatest warriors can claim the title of champion." Tae-woo took a bite of his rice ball and watched. He had heard about these fights from other workers. Every few months, the strongest fighters from different planets came here to battle. The winner got fame, and their planet got special trading rights. It was like gladiator fights from old Earth history, but with aliens who could breathe fire, or had skin harder than steel. "Our current champion needs no introduction," the announcer continued. "Kethmore of the Vexthari has held the title for 3 years. No being has been able to defeat him." The crowd roared as a massive gate opened on the arena floor. What came out made Tae-woo stop chewing. Kethmore was 12 feet tall and looked like someone had crossed a tiger with a tank. His orange and black striped fur-covered muscles that bulged under natural armor plates. 4 arms ended in claws that could probably cut through the metal walls around them. His face was like a cat's, but 3 times larger, with fangs that stuck out past his lower jaw. The alien crowd went wild. Some threw flowers, others shot colored lights into the air. Signs in dozens of languages held up pictures of Kethmore's face. Tae-woo had to admit the creature was impressive. He had seen pictures of Earth's old predators like saber-toothed cats and bears. Kethmore looked like evolution had taken those animals and asked, "How can we make this scarier?" In 3 years, Kethmore has defeated 47 challengers, the announcer said. "Warriors from the crystal caves of Nexus, the metal bone fighters of Torth, even the legendary sea beasts of Aquanis could not stand against him." Kethmore raised all 4 arms and roared. The sound made the arena shake. Tae-woo felt it in his chest like a bass drum. Several smaller aliens in the crowd fainted. As tradition commands, our champion may choose his next opponent from among the gathered beings. Who will face the mighty Kethmore? Tae-woo went back to his lunch. This was not his problem. He was here to fix electrical systems, not watch alien wrestling. His wife So-min had told him to just do his job and come home safe. Good advice. The arena got quiet. Tae-woo looked up to see Kethmore walking slowly around the fighting space. The alien's eyes glowed red as he scanned the crowd. Wherever his gaze fell, aliens looked away or tried to hide behind their seats. This made sense to Tae-woo. Who would want to fight that thing? He had seen what Kethmore could do on the news feeds. The alien could punch through solid rock and move faster than most Earth cars. Kethmore's scan moved through the VIP section where Tae-woo sat. Important aliens from different planets filled these seats. Diplomats, traders, and other rich beings who could afford the best view. The champion's glowing eyes passed over a group of crystal beings, then some floating squid-like creatures, then the red gaze stopped on Tae-woo. Tae-woo looked up from his kimchi, met the alien's stare, and nodded politely. It was just good manners. On Earth, you acknowledged people when they looked at you. The arena went dead silent. Kethmore tilted his massive head like a confused cat. His eyes stayed locked on the small human in work clothes who was eating lunch and seemed totally calm. Tae-woo took another bite of his rice ball and wondered why everyone had stopped talking. Maybe there was some kind of ceremony happening? He did not understand alien customs very well. The champion stepped closer to Taewoo's section of seats. Other aliens quickly moved away, leaving empty space around the human engineer. Interesting, Kethmore said in a voice like grinding rocks. His words boomed through speakers around the arena. You do not fear me, small one. Taewoo swallowed his food and looked around. Was the alien talking to him? He pointed at himself with a questioning look. Yes, you, Kethmore said. What manner of being are you? I am human, Taewoo said into the silence. From Earth. I am here to fix your electrical systems. The crowd started talking again, but quietly. Many aliens had never heard of humans before. Earth was a new planet that had only joined the galactic community 5 years ago. Human, Kethmore repeated the word slowly. I have not heard of your kind. You smell of metal and strange foods. Your heart beats steady. You show no fear signs. Taewoo shrugged. Should I be afraid? You have not threatened me. This was true. Kethmore had just been looking at him and asking questions. Taewoo had learned from his father that showing fear to animals often made them more aggressive. Maybe the same was true for alien predators. Most beings shake when I look at them, Kethmore said. Their scent changes. Their voices become higher. They try to make themselves smaller. That sounds unpleasant for them, Taewoo said. He packed up his lunchbox neatly. Are you going to fight someone today? I have work to finish before the next shuttle leaves. The alien crowd gasped. No one spoke to the champion so casually. Kethmore's 4 arms crossed over his chest. His head tilted the other way. You are either very brave or very stupid, human. Probably stupid, Taewoo admitted. My wife tells me this often. A sound came from Kethmore that might have been laughter. I like you, small human. You interest me. Thank you, Taewoo said politely. I choose you as my next challenger. The words hit the arena like a bomb. Aliens jumped to their feet. Voices rose in dozens of languages. The announcers started talking very fast. Taewoo looked around at all the excitement, then back at Kethmore. I think there has been a mistake. I am not a fighter. I fix electrical problems. The choice is made, Kethmore said. By the laws of the Apex trials, you cannot refuse without bringing shame to your entire species. Taewoo sighed and closed his eyes. He was definitely not getting home for dinner. The arena exploded into chaos. Aliens jumped from their seats, waving arms, tentacles, and other body parts Taewoo could not name. The noise was like being inside a thunderstorm. Taewoo sat quietly and tried to understand what had just happened. One moment he was eating lunch, the next moment he was apparently going to fight a 12-foot-tall killing machine. This has to be a joke, he said to himself. Security guards that looked like walking trees surrounded him. Their leader, a being with bark-like skin and glowing green eyes, spoke in careful Korean. Human Taewoo, you must come with us. The challenge has been issued and accepted by your presence here. I did not accept anything, Taewoo said, standing up with his toolbox. I just said hello. By galactic law, any being present at the Apex trials can be chosen. Refusing to respond is acceptance. Speaking to the champion after being chosen is also acceptance. Taewoo rubbed his forehead. That seems like a poorly designed system. The law has stood for 2,000 years, the guard said. Please come. They led him through corridors filled with running aliens. News crews pointed cameras at him while speaking rapidly in languages his translator could not keep up with. Everyone seemed very excited. They brought him to a small room with concrete walls and a single bench. It looked like a jail cell, but cleaner. You have 1 day to prepare, the guard said. Food and water will be provided. A representative of your species will be contacted. The door closed with a heavy clank. Taewoo sat on the bench and looked around the empty room. There was a small window near the ceiling that showed the purple sky outside. A camera blinked in. One corner. "Well," he said out loud, "this is not good." He opened his toolbox and took out his tablet computer. Maybe he could send a message to Earth and explain that this was all a mistake. Someone with more authority could fix this problem. The tablet showed no signal. Of course not. He was probably underground. An hour later, the door opened again. 3 humans walked in, and Taewoo had never been so happy to see his own species. The first was Minho, Earth's diplomatic representative to the Galactic Council. He was a small, nervous man who always looked like he was about to apologize for something. The second was So Young, a scientist who studied alien biology. She was tall and serious, with glasses that made her look very smart. The third was Jae-min, a military officer who had come to Nexus Prime to study alien fighting techniques. He was built like a soldier and moved like one too. "Tae-woo!" Minho said, rushing over. "Are you hurt? Are you okay? This is a disaster." "I am fine," Tae-woo said, "but I think there has been a mistake. I am not a fighter." "There is no mistake," So Young said, checking her own tablet. "I have been reading the Apex trial laws. Once a challenge is issued and acknowledged, it cannot be withdrawn." "What happens if I just refuse to fight?" Tae-woo asked. Minho made a choking sound. "You cannot refuse. If you do, humanity will be marked as a coward species. We would be banned from galactic trade, blocked from most planets, and treated as outcasts for generations." "That seems harsh," Tae-woo said. "The galaxy takes strength very seriously," Jaemin added. "Species that show cowardice are seen as weak links. No one wants weak allies." Tae-woo sighed. "So I have to fight this Kethmore creature?" "Yes," all 3 humans said at the same time. "And if I lose?" "You will probably die," So Young said with scientific honesty. "Kethmore has killed 32 of his 47 opponents. The others survived, but with serious injuries." "That is not encouraging." Jaemin sat down next to him. "I have been studying Vexathari fighting patterns. They are apex predators from a death world. 4 arms, natural armor, incredible speed and strength. They evolved to hunt creatures twice their size." "How big were the creatures they hunted?" Tae-woo asked. "About the size of Earth elephants, but faster and meaner." Tae-woo absorbed this information. "And humans? What did we evolve to hunt?" "Everything," So Young said. "But mostly through persistence hunting. We would chase animals until they collapsed from exhaustion." "How is that helpful here?" "It probably is not," Jae-min admitted. "This is a one-on-one fight in an arena. No room to run, nowhere to hide." Minho was pacing back and forth. "Maybe we can find a loophole, some technical rule that gets you out of this." "I already checked," So Young said. "The laws are very clear and very old. Many species have tried to find ways around them over the centuries." They spent the next few hours going over every possible option. All of them led back to the same conclusion. Tae-woo would have to fight. "What weapons can I use?" he asked finally. "The arena provides basic weapons," Jae-min said. "Swords, spears, clubs. Nothing too advanced. The fights are supposed to test personal combat skill, not technology. Can I bring my tools?" "Tools?" So Young looked confused. "My engineering tools. Screwdrivers, wrenches, measuring equipment." "I suppose so, if they are not obviously weapons." Tae-woo nodded and opened his toolbox. Inside were the normal things an electrical engineer carried. Wire strippers, multimeters, small hammers, metal rulers, and various hand tools. "These will not help you fight," Jaemin said gently. "Maybe not," Tae-woo agreed, "but they might help me think." As evening came, they brought him dinner. It was alien food that tasted like chicken mixed with rubber, but he ate it anyway. He needed energy. Minho left to contact Earth and explain the situation. So Young went to research more about arena fighting rules. Jae-min stayed to give combat advice. The key is to not get grabbed, the soldier said. Kethmore's strength comes from his forearms. If he gets hold of you, the fight is over. How do I avoid that? Speed and distance. Stay moving. Never let him corner you. For how long? Until you find an opening to attack. Tae-woo considered this. What if there is no opening? Jaemin was quiet for a moment. Then you will die fighting, and humanity will be honored for your courage. That is not very comforting. I am sorry. I wish I had better advice. After Jaemin left, Tae-woo lay on the hard bench and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow he would face a creature that could tear him apart with its bare hands, a predator that had never lost a fight. But as he drifted off to sleep, something his grandfather had told him years ago came back to him. The old man had been a hunter in the Korean mountains. The biggest animal is not always the most dangerous, his grandfather had said. Sometimes the most dangerous animal is the one that thinks. Tae-woo smiled in the darkness. Maybe he was not as helpless as everyone thought. Tae-woo woke up when someone banged on his door. The purple sky outside was getting lighter, which meant morning was coming. His back hurt from sleeping on the concrete bench. Time for preparation, the tree-like guard called out. Tae-woo stretched and picked up his toolbox. He had spent half the night thinking about his problem. Fighting Kethmore directly was suicide. But maybe there was another way. They led him through more corridors to a large room filled with weapons. Swords hung on the walls next to spears, clubs and axes. All of them looked sharp and deadly. An alien that looked like a walking mushroom gestured at the weapons. Choose what you need, human. You have 4 hours to prepare. Tae-woo walked around the room slowly. The weapons were all designed for beings much stronger than humans. The smallest sword was as long as his arm and probably weighed more than his toolbox. Are there any smaller weapons? He asked. These are sized for proper warriors, the mushroom alien said with what sounded like disgust. Perhaps you should choose the knife. The knife was still huge by human standards, but Tae-woo could lift it. He set it aside and continued looking around. What about armor? He asked. Armor is for cowards. True warriors rely on skill and natural strength. Tae-woo nodded politely. He had expected that answer. Most alien cultures seem to value direct. Combat over protection. Can I see the arena before the fight? You may observe but not enter the fighting space. They took him up several levels to a viewing platform. From here, Tae-woo could see the entire arena floor. It was a circle about 100 meters across, with walls about 20 feet high. The floor looked like metal grating with small holes in it. What is under the floor? Tae-woo asked. Machinery for special effects, the guard said. Lights, sounds, things to make the fights more exciting for the crowd. Tae-woo nodded and took out a small notebook. He started drawing a map of what he could see. Why are you making pictures? The guard asked. I like to understand my work environment, Tae-woo said simply. He spent an hour studying the arena from different angles. The walls had panels that might be removable. The lighting came from strips near the ceiling. Most importantly, there were maintenance hatches in the floor that workers could use to access the equipment below. I would like to examine the electrical systems, Tae-woo said. Why? I am an engineer. It is what I do. The mushroom alien made a bubbling sound that might have been laughter. Very well. But you cannot damage anything. They took him down to the maintenance levels under the arena. Here was the real heart of the complex. Power generators, computer systems, cooling units, and miles of cables and pipes. Tae-woo felt more at home here than he had since arriving on Nexus Prime. This was his world, machines and electrical systems that he could understand and work with. The main power comes from here, the guard explained, pointing to a massive generator. It feeds the lights, the sound system, the energy barriers around the fighting space. Energy barriers? To protect the crowd from stray weapons or projectiles, Tae-woo made more notes in his book. What happens if the power fails? Emergency systems keep basic functions running, but the arena would have to be evacuated. How long would that take? Perhaps an hour to clear everyone safely. Tae-woo studied the control panels. Like most galactic technology, they were designed to be used by different species. The symbols were simple, and the controls were clearly marked. "This is very well organized," he said. "The arena has been built over many years. Safety is important when you have thousands of different alien species in one place." They showed him more systems, the air circulation that kept the arena breathable for dozens of different life forms, the artificial gravity generators that made sure everyone could walk normally, and the communication network that translated announcements into hundreds of languages. "Fascinating," Tae-woo said, and he meant it. The engineering behind the arena was impressive. After 2 hours of exploration, he had filled his notebook with drawings and observations. He understood how the arena worked, from the smallest electrical connection to the main structural supports. "Now." "What?" the guard asked. "Now I need to practice," Tae-woo said. They gave him a training room with some basic equipment. Jamin joined him there to help with combat techniques. "Did you choose a weapon?" the soldier asked. "The knife," Tae-woo said, showing him the oversized blade. "That might be your best option. It is lighter than the swords, and you can move faster with it." They spent an hour working on basic fighting moves. Jamin showed him how to hold the knife, how to block attacks, and how to stay balanced while moving. "Remember," Jamin said, "your goal is not to win quickly. Your goal is to survive as long as possible. Maybe Kethmore will make a mistake." What kind of mistakes do Vexathari make? They are used to overwhelming their opponents with pure strength. They sometimes get overconfident and leave themselves open. Tae-woo practiced the moves until his arms were sore. He was not going to become a great fighter in one day, but at least he would not fall over when he tried to use the knife. So Young arrived with more information about arena rules. The fight continues until one combatant surrenders, is unable to continue, or dies, she read from her tablet. The champion can choose to show mercy, but there is no requirement to do so. Has Kethmore ever shown mercy? 15 times, usually to opponents who fought with great courage but were clearly defeated. What counts as great courage? Fighting even when badly injured, refusing to give up even when the battle is hopeless. Tae-woo thought about this. So if I keep fighting, even if I am losing, he might spare me? It is possible, but you would still be seriously injured. Minho appeared with news from Earth. The government is following the situation closely. They are proud of you for accepting this challenge. Even though I had no choice. Especially because you had no choice. You could have panicked or begged, but you stayed calm and accepted with dignity. I do not feel very dignified. You will represent all of humanity tomorrow, Minho said seriously. Whatever happens, you will show the galaxy what humans are made of. As the day ended, Tae-woo sat alone in his preparation room. His notebook was full of drawings and ideas. His toolbox held everything he thought he might need. The oversized knife lay on the bench beside him. Tomorrow he would face Kethmore in front of thousands of aliens and billions more watching on broadcasts across the galaxy. A small human against the greatest predator in known space. But he was not the same person who had been eating lunch yesterday. He had spent a day learning, planning, and preparing. He understood the arena better than anyone except the engineers who built it. Kethmore was a warrior, but Tae-woo was an engineer. Maybe. That would be enough. The morning of the fight arrived too quickly. Tae-woo had barely slept, but his mind was clear. He ate a simple breakfast of rice and vegetables that Minho had somehow arranged to be delivered from Earth. "How are you feeling?" So Young asked, when she arrived to check on him. "Nervous," Tae-woo admitted, "but ready." "The betting pools are very active," she said, trying to sound casual. "The odds against you winning are now 75,000 to 1. "That seems optimistic," Tae-woo said with a small smile. Jamin joined them for final preparations. "I have been studying videos of Kethmore's previous fights. He always starts the same way. A direct charge to overwhelm his opponent quickly. How fast can he move? Fast enough to cross the arena in about 3 seconds. Tae-woo nodded. He had expected that. What about his endurance? Unknown. Most of his fights end in the first few minutes? Interesting. So-young pulled up information on her tablet. I have been researching Vexithari biology. They are evolved from ambush predators, short bursts of incredible energy, then rest periods to recover. Like Earth cats? Exactly like Earth cats, but much larger and with 4 arms. This confirmed what Tae-woo had been thinking. Kethmore was built for quick kills, not long battles. Min-ho appeared with several other humans. Embassy, staff who had come to support their unexpected champion. They all looked worried but proud. Earth is watching, Min-ho said. The news feeds are calling you the bravest human alive. Or the stupidest, Tae-woo said. Probably both. They gave him new clothes for the fight, simple black pants and a shirt that would not tear easily. Tae-woo packed his toolbox carefully, making sure everything was in the right place. What is your plan? Jae-min asked quietly. Survive, Tae-woo said, and maybe learn something about our opponent. 2 hours before the fight, alien reporters were allowed to interview him. They came from dozens of different planets, representing hundreds of news organizations. A crystal being that spoke through musical tones asked the first question. Human Tae-woo, are you prepared to die for your species' honor? I hope that will not be necessary, Tae-woo replied calmly. A floating squid creature asked, What makes you think you can defeat the mighty Kethmore? I do not think I can defeat him in direct combat, Tae-woo said honestly. But maybe I can. Surprise him. This caused a lot of excited chatter among the reporters. A lizard-like being with 6 eyes asked, What is your strategy? To use what I know best, Tae-woo said. I am an engineer. I solve problems. Fighting is not an engineering problem, the lizard said with what sounded like scorn. Everything is an engineering problem if you think about it correctly. More excited chatter. The reporters seemed confused by his answers, which was probably good. 1 hour before the fight, they moved him to a staging area next to the arena. He could hear the crowd gathering, thousands of voices in dozens of languages, all excited to see the small human get torn apart. Kethmore was in a similar area on the opposite side. Through a small window, Tae-woo could see the massive alien preparing for battle. He was painting symbols on his fur and sharpening his claws on metal bars. He looks confident, Jae-min observed. He should be, Tae-woo said. He has every advantage. Except one, So-young said quietly. What is that? He does not understand humans yet. The final preparations began. Medical teams checked both fighters and confirmed they were healthy. Officials explained the rules one more time. Weapons were inspected and approved. Tae-woo's oversized knife passed inspection, as did his toolbox. The officials looked confused by the engineering equipment, but found nothing that violated the rules. 5 minutes, an announcer called out. Tae-woo sat quietly and went over his plans one more time. He had several options depending on how the fight developed. None of them involved actually defeating Kethmore in combat, but they might keep him alive long enough for something useful to happen. Any last advice? He asked Jae-min. Remember your grandfather's words about thinking being more dangerous than size. I will. And remember that all of humanity is proud of you, whatever happens. The arena doors began to open. Sound flooded in, cheering, music, and the voice of the announcer building excitement for the crowd. Citizens of the galaxy, today we witness history. For the first time, a human enters the arena of champions. Tae-woo picked up his toolbox and knife. His hands were steady, which surprised him. Maybe he was too scared to shake, or maybe he was more ready than he thought. The challenger weighs 70 kilograms and stands 1.75 meters tall. From the newly Discovered world of Earth, we present Tae Woo, the engineer. The crowd's response was mixed. Some cheered, others laughed, and many made sounds Tae Woo could not identify. His opponent needs no introduction. Weighing 180 kilograms and standing 3.7 meters tall, the undefeated champion of 3 years, Kethmore the Destroyer. The roar was deafening. Clearly, Kethmore had many fans. Fighters enter the arena. Tae Woo walked out into the circular fighting space. The crowd noise hit him like a physical force. Thousands of alien faces stared down at him from the seats above. Cameras floated through the air, broadcasting his image across the galaxy. On the opposite side, Kethmore emerged from his door. Up close, he was even more impressive than Tae Woo had remembered. The alien moved like flowing water despite his size, each step perfectly balanced and controlled. They walked to the center of the arena and stopped 10 meters apart. "Human," Kethmore said, his voice carrying easily over the crowd noise. "You have shown courage by coming here. I will make your death quick." "Thank you," Tae Woo said politely. "That is very considerate." Kethmore tilted his head. "You are not what I expected." "Neither are you," Tae Woo replied. "You are much larger in person." The champion made that sound that might have been laughter. "I like you, small engineer. It is unfortunate that I must kill you. Perhaps we could just shake hands and call it even? The law requires combat. I was afraid you would say that." The referee, a floating ball of light, spoke in a voice that echoed through the arena. "Fighters ready! Begin on my signal!" Tae Woo shifted his grip on the knife and took a step backward. Kethmore dropped into a crouch, all 4 arms spread wide. 3, 2, 1, fight! Kethmore charged. Kethmore's charge was like watching a landslide. 400 pounds of muscle and fury bearing down on Tae Woo with the speed of a racing car. The crowd held its breath, expecting the fight to end in seconds. But Tae Woo was not where Kethmore expected him to be. Instead of standing his ground or running backward, Tae Woo had thrown himself sideways. Not towards safety, but toward one of the maintenance panels he had studied the day before. As Kethmore thundered past, Tae Woo pulled a small metal tool from his toolbox and jammed it into the panel's lock mechanism. The panel popped open, revealing the electrical systems underneath. "What are you doing?" Kethmore demanded, skidding to a stop and turning around. "Working," Tae Woo said calmly. He reached into the panel and pulled out a specific wire bundle. "This is combat, not maintenance." "For me, they are the same thing." Tae Woo touched 2 wires together. Sparks flew, and suddenly half the arena lights went out. The crowd gasped as sections of the fighting area fell into darkness. Kethmore charged again, but now he was running through shadows. His red eyes could see in the dark, but the changing light confused his depth perception. He swung all 4 arms where Tae Woo should have been and hit nothing but air. Tae Woo had rolled to another maintenance panel. "Stop running and fight me," Kethmore roared. "I am fighting you," Tae Woo said, opening the second panel, "just not the way you expected." This time he disconnected the artificial gravity generator for Section 3 of the arena. Suddenly, Kethmore found himself floating 3 feet off the ground, his powerful legs useless for pushing off. The alien champion flailed in the low gravity, trying to reach Tae Woo but moving like he was swimming through thick liquid. "This is not honorable combat," Kethmore protested. "There is nothing dishonorable about using available resources," Tae Woo replied, moving to a third panel. "You use your claws and strength. I use my knowledge." The crowd was going wild. They had expected a quick slaughter, but instead they were watching something completely new. The tiny human was somehow controlling the arena itself. Alien announcers were speaking rapidly in dozens of languages, trying to explain what was happening to confused audiences across the galaxy. Tae Woo activated the emergency fog system, filling the arena with thick, white vapor. Now even Kethmore's superior vision was useless. The champion was floating in a cloud, unable to see his opponent. "Where are you, human?" Kethmore called out. "Right here," Taewoo's voice came from the fog, but it seemed to come from everywhere, at once. He was using the arena's sound system to project his voice from multiple speakers. Kethmore tried to follow the voice, but kept grabbing empty air. The reduced gravity made his movements slow and clumsy. He was designed for solid ground and clear sight lines, not floating in fog. "This is impossible," he growled. "No warrior fights like this." "I am not a warrior," Taewoo's voice echoed around the arena. "I am an engineer. Engineers solve problems by changing the environment." From his position near the fourth maintenance panel, Taewoo could see Kethmore floating helplessly in the artificial fog. The alien was powerful, but power meant nothing when you could not reach your opponent. The crowd was on its feet. Some aliens were cheering for the clever human, others were angry that their champion was being made to look foolish. The noise was incredible. But Taewoo was not trying to humiliate Kethmore. He was studying him. For the first time in 3 years, the champion was not in control of a fight. He was frustrated, confused, and working harder than he ever had before. His breathing was getting heavier. Sweat was visible on his fur. "Interesting," Taewoo said to himself. He had learned what he needed to know. Kethmore was incredibly strong and fast, but he was not used to long battles. The alien was already showing signs of fatigue after just a few minutes of struggling in the fog. Taewoo made his decision. He turned off the fog system and restored the gravity. Kethmore dropped to the arena floor with a heavy thud, landing on all fours like a cat. "There," Taewoo said, stepping out of the shadows. "Now we can have a proper fight." Kethmore stood up slowly, his red eyes blazing with anger. "You mock me with these tricks." "No," Taewoo said seriously. "I was learning about you. Now I know what I need to know." "And what is that?" "You are very strong, but you get tired quickly. You are used to winning fast, not fighting long." Kethmore's eyes narrowed. The human was right, and they both knew it. "It does not matter," the champion said. "I only need to catch you once." "That is true," Taewoo agreed. "But first you have to catch me." This time when Kethmore charged, Taewoo was ready. He did not try to run away or hide. Instead, he did something that surprised everyone, including himself. He ran straight at the alien champion. At the last second, he dropped to his knees and slid under Kethmore's reaching arms. The knife in his hand traced a thin line across the alien's leg, not deep enough to cause real damage, but enough to draw blood. Kethmore spun around, but Taewoo was already moving again. The human stayed low, using his smaller size to get under the alien's guard. When Kethmore tried to grab him, Taewoo was gone. "Stand still and fight," Kethmore demanded. "Why would I do that?" Taewoo asked, ducking under another swing. "You are bigger and stronger. I would lose immediately. Then how do you expect to win?" "I do not expect to win," Taewoo said, making another small cut on Kethmore's arm. "I expect you to lose." It took the champion a moment to understand the difference. Kethmore was fighting to win quickly, using maximum energy for every attack. But Taewoo was fighting to last, using minimum energy and making his opponent work harder. It was the difference between a sprint and a marathon. And Kethmore was discovering that he was a sprinter trying to run a marathon against someone who had been training for endurance his whole life. The cuts Taewoo was making were tiny, but they were adding up. More importantly, each cut meant that Kethmore had failed to catch him. Each failure made the alien angrier and more reckless. "This is not how combat works," Kethmore protested, breathing heavily now. "Combat works however it needs to work," Taewoo replied. He was tired too, but not nearly as tired as his opponent. The crowd was beginning to understand what they were seeing. The small human was not trying to overpower the champion. He was trying to outlast him, and incredibly, it seemed to be working. 20 minutes into the fight, something unprecedented was happening in the arena of champions. Kethmore, the undefeated champion, was gasping for air. The massive alien stood in the center of the arena, all four arms hanging loose at his sides. His orange and black fur was dark with sweat. His breathing sounded like a broken engine. Tae-Woo circled him slowly, staying just out of reach. The human looked tired but alert. His work shirt was torn in several places, and he had a cut on his forehead, but he was still moving steadily. "This is not possible," Kethmore panted. "You keep saying that," Tae-Woo replied. "But here we are." The crowd was in shock. Many aliens had never seen their champion show any signs of weakness. Betting pools were closing as bookmakers tried to figure out new odds for an impossible situation. In the human section, So Young was taking notes frantically. "Look at the metabolic differences," she said to Jamin. "Kethmore burns energy like a fusion reactor, but humans are designed for efficiency." "Tae-Woo is barely breathing hard," Jamin observed with amazement. On the arena floor, Kethmore tried another charge. But this time his movements were slow and clumsy. Tae-Woo stepped aside easily and made another small cut on the alien's shoulder. 43, Tae-Woo said quietly. "What?" Kethmore demanded. "That was cut number 43. I have been counting." "Why?" "Because I am an engineer. Engineers measure things." Kethmore looked down at his body. Dozens of tiny wounds covered his arms and legs. None of them were serious, but together they painted a clear picture. The human could cut him any time he wanted to. "You could have killed me?" Kethmore realized. "Many times," Tae-Woo agreed. "But that was never the goal." "Then what is your goal?" Tae-Woo stopped circling and faced the champion directly. "To show you something about humans." "Which is?" "We do not give up." Kethmore's red eyes studied the small being in front of him. In all his years of fighting, no opponent had ever lasted this long. Most were dead within minutes. Even the strongest warriors rarely survived more than 10 minutes of combat. But this human engineer had been fighting for over 20 minutes, and he showed no signs of stopping. "Your species fascinates me," Kethmore said. "Most aliens say we are weak. They do not understand the difference between strength and power," the champion replied. "Power comes from muscles and claws. Strength comes from will. And which do you think is more important?" Before Kethmore could answer, something changed in his expression. The fury and frustration faded, replaced by something like respect. "You have proven your point, human," he said formally. "You could continue this dance until I collapse from exhaustion." "Yes," Tae-Woo said simply, "but you will not." "Why do you say that?" "Because you are not cruel. You fight because you must, not because you enjoy causing pain." Tae-Woo nodded. "You are very observant. It is a skill that keeps warriors alive." Kethmore stood straighter, despite his exhaustion. "I have a proposal." "I am listening." "Let us end this with honor. One final exchange. No tricks, no delays. I will attack with everything I have left, and you will meet me blade to blade. And if you win, then I win as tradition demands. But if you survive my attack..." Kethmore paused. "Then I will yield." The crowd fell silent. In 3 years, no one had ever heard Kethmore speak of yielding. "Why would you do that?" Tae-Woo asked. "Because you have taught me something I did not know. There are different kinds of strength, and yours is greater than mine." Tae-Woo considered the offer. It was fair, and it would give both fighters a chance to end with dignity. "Agreed," he said. Kethmore smiled, showing his massive fangs. "I am honored to face you, Tae-Woo of Earth, and I am honored to face you, Kethmore of the Vex Thari." They walked to opposite sides of the arena. The champion took several deep breaths, gathering his remaining strength for one final attack. Tae-Woo adjusted his grip on the oversized knife and settled into a combat stance Jamin had taught him. "This will be glorious," the alien announcer called out. "A final clash between champion and challenger." The floating referee moved between them. "Are both fighters ready?" "Ready," Kethmore said. "Ready," Taewoo replied. "Then begin." Kethmore's final charge was magnificent. Despite his exhaustion, he moved with the fluid grace of a perfect predator. All four arms extended, claws gleaming, muscles coiled for maximum impact. But he was not the same fighter who had started the battle. His movements were slightly slower, his reflexes slightly duller. The long fight had taken its toll. Taewoo did not try to dodge this time. Instead, he stepped forward to meet the charge. At the last instant, he dropped low and thrust upward with his knife. The blade sliced through the air between Kethmore's arms and stopped just short of the alien's throat. At the same moment, Kethmore's claws stopped just short of Taewoo's chest. They stood frozen for a heartbeat, each capable of killing the other with a twitch of muscle. Then Kethmore stepped back and raised all four arms above his head. "I yield," he announced in a voice that carried throughout the arena. "The human has defeated me." The silence lasted for 3 seconds. Then the arena exploded. Aliens leaped to their feet, screaming in languages Taewoo could not understand. Some sounded angry, others amazed, still others excited beyond belief. In the human section, Minho was crying. So Young was updating her. Notes with shaking hands. Jaemin stood at attention and saluted. Taewoo lowered his knife and offered his hand to Kethmore. The alien champion looked at the gesture for a moment, then grasped the human's hand in one of his massive paws. "How?" Kethmore asked quietly, so only Taewoo could hear. "I told you," Taewoo replied. "We do not give up." "No," Kethmore said, his red eyes thoughtful. "There is more to it than that." "What do you mean?" "You could have humiliated me. Made me crawl. Forced me to beg for mercy. But you gave me a chance to yield with honor." Taewoo shrugged. "You are a worthy opponent. You deserved respect." Kethmore squeezed the human's hand gently. "That," he said, "is why you won." The arena medical team rushed onto the fighting floor as the crowd continued to roar. Alien doctors with 6 arms and crystal healers with glowing hands surrounded both fighters, checking for serious injuries. "I am fine," Taewoo told a mushroom-shaped medic who was scanning him with some kind of light device. "You have 17 minor lacerations and signs of exhaustion," the medic reported. "Nothing life-threatening, but you should rest." Across the arena, more medics were treating Kethmore's cuts. The champion had refused to sit down, insisting he was well enough to stand. 43 wounds, all precisely placed to avoid vital areas, the lead doctor announced with professional admiration. "Remarkable surgical precision." "I am an engineer," Taewoo said again. "Precision is important in my work." The floating referee approached them both. "By the laws of the Apex Trials, Taewoo of Earth is declared the victor. He has earned the right to claim the championship." The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some aliens cheered wildly, others booed, and many simply sat in stunned silence. Taewoo looked confused. "I do not want to be champion." "What?" The referee's mechanical voice sounded shocked. "I just wanted to go home and fix electrical systems. Being a champion sounds like too much work." Kethmore made that laughing sound again. "You continue to surprise me, small engineer. Is there a way to decline the championship?" Taewoo asked. The referee consulted what looked like a floating law book. "According to tradition, a victor may pass the title to a worthy opponent if both fighters agree." "I agree," Kethmore said immediately. "You have earned the right to remain champion, even in defeat." "Thank you," Taewoo said gratefully. "That solves my problem." But the real impact of the fight was just beginning to be understood. In the VIP sections, alien diplomats were having urgent conversations. Representatives from dozens of species were making rapid calculations about what this meant for galactic politics. "Did you see how the human fought?" a crystal being asked its companion. No wasted movement, perfect efficiency, endless endurance, and the tactical thinking, added a floating squid. He turned the arena itself into a weapon. Most disturbing was his mercy, said a lizard diplomat. He could have killed the champion many times but chose not to. What kind of species shows such restraint? Word was already spreading across the galaxy through faster-than-light communication networks. The news feeds were full of excited reporters trying to explain what had happened. In an unprecedented upset, a human engineer has defeated the legendary Kethmor. The newcomer species from Earth has shocked the galactic community. Military. Analysts are calling for immediate studies of human combat potential. Back on Earth, crowds gathered around public screens to watch the broadcast. In Seoul, Tae-woo's family watched with pride and terror as their husband and father faced impossible odds and somehow survived. "Your husband is very brave," neighbors told So-min. "Your husband is very foolish," she replied, but she was smiling through her tears. In the arena, officials were trying to conduct the traditional post-fight ceremony. Tae-woo and Kethmor were supposed to make speeches to the crowd. "I do not know what to say," Tae-woo admitted. "Speak from your heart," Kethmor advised. "Tell them what they need to hear." The announcer's voice boomed across the arena. "The victor will now address the gathered beings." Tae-woo took the offered microphone and looked up at thousands of alien faces. He could see curiosity, fear, excitement, and confusion in their various features. "Hello," he said simply. "My name is Tae-woo. I fix electrical problems." A few aliens laughed at this introduction. "2 days ago, I came here to do a job. I did not expect to fight anyone. But sometimes life gives you problems you did not ask for." The arena had grown quiet as his words were translated into hundreds of languages. "I learned something today. Fighting is not about being the strongest or the fastest. It is about not giving up when things seem impossible." He paused, thinking about his grandfather's words. "My grandfather used to hunt in the mountains of Korea. He told me that the most dangerous animal is not the biggest one. It is the one that keeps thinking when everything goes wrong." More aliens were leaning forward now, trying to understand this small being who had done the impossible. "Humans are not the strongest species in the galaxy. We are not the fastest or the toughest. But we are very good at not giving up. We keep thinking, keep trying, keep working until we find a solution." In the human section, Minho was frantically taking notes. This speech would be studied by diplomats for years. "I did not defeat Kethmor because I am better than him," Tae-woo continued. "He is a great warrior and a noble being. I survived because I used what I know best, how to solve problems." He looked directly at Kethmor, who nodded with respect. "Every species has different strengths. The Vexthari are magnificent warriors. The crystal beings are wise counselors. The floating squid people are brilliant scientists." He gestured to various sections of the crowd. "Humans are good at persisting when things look hopeless." "And mercy," Kethmor added, loud enough for his voice to carry. "Do not forget mercy." Tae-woo smiled. "Yes, and mercy. We try to be kind to our opponents, even when we are fighting them." The crowd was completely silent now. This was not the kind of victory speech they were used to hearing. "I hope this fight shows that humans want to be friends with all species. We do not seek conflict, but we will not back down when challenged. We prefer to solve problems with tools and thinking, but we can fight when we must." He handed the microphone back to the announcer. "That is all I wanted to say. Now, if someone could tell me where the shuttle to Earth is, I would like to go home to my wife." The arena erupted in laughter and cheers. Even aliens who had been hostile to humans seemed charmed by the engineer's simple honesty. But in government buildings across the galaxy, military leaders were having very different conversations. "If this human engineer can defeat our greatest champion," one general said to another, "what could their actual soldiers do? More importantly, His companion replied, "Do we want them as allies or enemies?" The answer to that question would reshape galactic politics for generations to come. But Tae-woo did not know about any of that. He was just an engineer who wanted to go home and never fight anyone again. Unfortunately for him, the galaxy had other plans. 6 months after the fight, Tae-woo sat in his small office on Earth, trying to focus on electrical diagrams. Outside his window, Seoul looked the same as always. Busy streets, tall buildings, people going about their normal lives. But everything had changed. His desk was covered with messages from across the galaxy. Requests for interviews, offers for book deals, and invitations to speak at alien universities. He had thrown most of them away. "There is another delegation here to see you," his assistant Yong-soo announced from the doorway. "What kind of delegation?" "Military. From the Helix Empire. They want to discuss defense contracts." Tae-woo sighed. "Tell them I am busy fixing electrical problems." "I tried that with the last 3 groups. They are very persistent." This was the problem. Word of the fight had spread throughout the galaxy, and everyone wanted to know more about humans. Specifically, they wanted to know about human fighting capabilities. Earth's government had tried to manage the situation, but the requests kept coming. Trade offers, military alliances, technology exchanges, and cultural agreements flooded in from hundreds of species. "Sir," Jong-soo said carefully, "there is also a personal message from Kethmore." Tae-woo looked up with interest. The former champion had become an unexpected friend. They exchanged messages regularly, discussing philosophy, engineering, and the strange turns their lives had taken. "What does he say?" "He is coming to Earth next week. Something about a special announcement." Before Tae-woo could respond, his communication device chimed with an urgent message from Minister Min-ho. "Please report to the Foreign Ministry immediately. Priority 1. Tae-woo gathered his tools and headed for the government building. The streets of Seoul were busier than usual, filled with alien tourists who came to see the home world of the species that had shocked the galaxy. The Foreign Ministry building buzzed with activity. Diplomats from dozens of worlds moved through the corridors, conducting business that would have been impossible before the fight. Min-ho met him at the elevator, looking more stressed than usual. "Thank you for coming. We have a situation." "What kind of situation?" "The good kind, hopefully. The Galactic Defense Council wants to offer humanity full membership." Tae-woo blinked. "That seems positive." "It is unprecedented. New species usually wait decades to be considered for membership. But after your fight, they are fast-tracking our application." They entered a conference room filled with humans and aliens working together on complex documents. So Young was there, consulting with crystal beings about biological compatibility standards. Jae-min discussed military protocols with warrior species from 3 different systems. "The membership comes with responsibilities," Min-ho explained. "We would be expected to contribute to galactic security, provide military support when needed." "What does that have to do with me?" "Everything. They specifically requested that you be part of the negotiation team." "I am not a diplomat." "No, but you are the human who defeated Kethmore. Your opinion carries weight now." Dal-Su, Earth's senior diplomat, approached with a tablet full of information. "The council session is tomorrow," he said. "Representatives from 200 species will be there. They want to hear from you personally." "About what?" "About human intentions, about our military capabilities, about whether we can be trusted as allies." Tae-woo looked around the busy room. "What do you want me to tell them?" "The truth," Dal-Su said simply. "Whatever that is." The next day, Tae-woo found himself in a massive chamber that made the arena look small. Beings from across the galaxy filled tiered seats that stretched up into shadows. The air hummed with translation devices working in hundreds of languages. "The representative from Earth will now address the council," announced a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Taewoo stood at a small podium in the center of the chamber. He felt like an ant in a cathedral. "Hello," he began, just as he had in the arena. "My name is Taewoo. I am an engineer from Seoul." The vast chamber was silent except for the whisper of translation devices. 6 months ago, I came to Nexus Prime to fix some wiring. I ended up in a fight I never wanted. Today you ask me to speak for my entire species about military matters I do not understand." He paused, looking up at the thousands of alien faces watching him. "I cannot tell you how many ships Earth has, or how many soldiers. I do not know our weapons technology or strategic capabilities. I am not a general or a politician." Murmurs arose from different sections of the chamber. "But I can tell you about humans." The murmurs stopped. "We are a young species. We make mistakes. We argue among ourselves about everything. Sometimes we are selfish, sometimes we are foolish." "Then why should we trust you?" called out a voice from the upper levels. "Because we learn," Taewoo replied. "When we make mistakes, we try to do better. When we fight each other, we eventually make peace. When we see injustice, we try to fix it." He thought about his grandfather again, and the lessons that had carried him through the fight with Kethmore. Humans have a saying, "Fall down 7 times, get up 8. We do not give up easily. We do not abandon our friends. We keep trying until we find solutions." "But are you warriors?" demanded a delegate from a species Taewoo did not recognize. "Some of us are," he admitted. "But most of us are farmers, teachers, engineers, doctors, parents. We prefer to build things rather than destroy them. Yet you defeated the galaxy's greatest champion." "I survived him," Taewoo corrected. "There is a difference. I did not win because I was stronger. I won because I refused to lose." A new voice spoke from the Crystal Beings section. "What would humanity do if Earth was threatened?" "We would fight," Taewoo said without hesitation. "We would fight with everything we have, for as long as necessary, until the threat was gone or we were all dead." "And if other worlds were threatened?" This was the crucial question. Taewoo could feel the weight of history in his answer. "That would depend," he said carefully, "on whether those worlds were our friends." "And how does one become humanity's friend?" Taewoo smiled. "The same way anyone becomes friends. You treat each other with respect. You help when help is needed. You share what you have. You keep your promises." "Even to former enemies?" "Especially to former enemies. Some of our best friends were once our worst enemies." The chamber buzzed with conversation as delegates discussed his answers in dozens of languages. Finally, the council leader spoke. "The Defense Council will vote on Earth's membership application. All those in favor?" Lights began appearing throughout the chamber, hundreds of them, representing species from across the galaxy voting to accept humanity. "All those opposed?" A few lights appeared, but not many. The motion passes overwhelmingly. Earth is hereby granted full membership in the Galactic Defense Council. The chamber erupted in sounds of approval from most species, though a few remained pointedly silent. Later, as Taewoo prepared to return to Earth, Kethmore found him in the waiting area. "Congratulations," the former champion said. "Your species has been accepted." "Thank you. Though I am not sure what we have gotten ourselves into." "Something important," Kethmore replied. "The galaxy has been waiting for a species like yours." "What do you mean?" "Most species are either predators or prey, conquerors or victims, but humans are something different. You are protectors." "How do you know that?" Kethmore gestured toward the council chamber. "Because you could have demanded territory, resources, special privileges. Instead, you asked how to be good friends." They walked together toward the transport area. "There is something I must tell you," Kethmore said. "The reason I challenged you that day. I wondered about that. I was ordered to test humanity. The council wanted to know what your species was capable of under pressure." Taewoo stopped walking. You mean the whole thing was planned? Not planned, but encouraged. They needed to see how humans react to impossible situations. And what did they learn? That humans are exactly what the galaxy needs right now. We have predators and prey in abundance, but we have few protectors. What is coming that requires protection? Kethmore's expression grew serious. Threats from beyond our galaxy, species that see all life as resources to be consumed. They are coming, Taewoo, and when they arrive, we will need beings who refuse to give up. As their transport prepared for departure, Taewoo looked back at the massive space station where the council met. Somewhere in that structure, delegates were making plans that would shape the future of hundreds of worlds. Do you think we are ready for this responsibility? He asked. No species ever is, Kethmore replied. But humans have something most species lack, which is the stubborn refusal to accept that anything is impossible. The transport launched, carrying them back toward their respective home worlds. But Taewoo knew he would not be fixing electrical systems much longer. The galaxy had bigger problems that needed solving, and humanity, it seemed, was very good at solving problems.